This is One Healthy World India program, and we will be recording these classes, and the recordings will be shared with you each week in an email. And they will also be available in the resource portal for you to access anytime. So please feel free to invite your friends, family, and anybody who want to get some tips for managing diabetes or losing weight or want to reverse heart disease. So to begin this class today, our class topic is why do we want to improve our diets? And Dr. Rahman is going to give a presentation on health and food.
Well, let's get started. We have some really important material to cover. So why are we even talking about health and food? Why does any of this matter? Well, so for starters, let's think about our traditional Indian diet where we ate a lot of fruits, vegetables. We ate a lot of legumes, all our dals and beans, and we ate whole grain breads. And we put everything together with our wonderful Indian spices. We have hundreds of traditional herbs and spices that we can use to make our meals delicious. And then we created this fabulous Indian power plate that was full of vegetables and legumes and whole grains. Well, over time, that changed. And this is what our current Indian food looks like for a lot of us. It's often fast food style, it's deep fried, or even if it's not bought in a restaurant or commercial at home, it's often deep fried, heavy use of butter, cream. So just a high amount of fat, and we're moving away from that wonderful traditional Indian diet. And as we're doing that, there has not only been a change in our diet, but in our health. So we have moved towards more Western style food. We're using more oil, ghee, fried food, more added sugars, more refined grains, more dairy products, and drinking more juices and soda. And at the same time, we are using fewer whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and legumes. And this is not only impacting what's on our plate, it's impacting what's happening inside our body. So our blood pressure is going up, the risk of diabetes and the prevalence of diabetes is going up, cholesterol levels are rising, and heart disease is increasing. This is particularly problematic for us from the Indian subcontinent because we are commonly known as the thin fat Indian. What does that mean? That means that at any given BMI, we carry more body fat and more belly fat. So this is so important that for Indians, we consider overweight to be a BMI of 23 and obesity to be a BMI of 27, as opposed to 30 for non-Indian populations. And we know that the risk of diabetes and heart disease starts 10 years earlier for us. So this is a very significant problem. And the rates of diabetes are skyrocketing in India. And so what is diabetes? Diabetes involves regulating our blood sugar. Many of you know that, but you may not know the role that our diet is playing. So this is a healthy muscle cell in our body, and it needs fuel to work. So it needs glucose, those pink dots, but glucose can't just waltz in and waltz out of our cell. They need to be let in because our cell is very protective of what goes in and out. So there's a special channel through which the glucose enters, and there's a key that needs to open that gate, and that key is insulin. So when we eat a meal, insulin is secreted by pancreas, and it opens the gate. Now glucose enters and all is well. But what if we're eating puris or food with butter or fried food and heavy cream? Or vadas, which are deep fried, or fish, or chicken. These are all really high fat foods. What happens is that fat, which are these yellow globules, enter the cell, and the cell says, you know what? I don't need glucose. I got enough fat in me. So even though the insulin comes out, the gate does not open, and that's what we call insulin resistance, and blood sugar levels go up. Now, what if we get rid of those fried foods? What if we get rid of the butter, the fish, the chicken? Well, then insulin is able to do its job. The gate opens and glucose re-enters the cell and our blood sugar levels go down. And that's what we want. So we know that South Asians develop diabetes at least a decade earlier than Caucasians. Our risk starts at age 25 to 34, really young, and we are much more likely to progress from prediabetes to diabetes. And let's just look at the number of people with diabetes in India. In 2030, there were 10 crore Indians with diabetes. So just an astronomical number. This is before the COVID pandemic. We had this pandemic of diabetes around the world, but particularly in India. And that's largely due to our changing Indian diet. We're consuming more cheese, more butter, more Western style fast food, and more of our Indian food is now deep fried. So what's the solution? The solution is to return to our traditional healthy Indian foods. Avoid meat, fish, eggs. Eat foods that come from plants, not animals. Avoid dairy because dairy is incredibly high in fat. And later today, you're going to learn about terrific dairy alternatives that you can find in India. Avoid soda and juice. Stick with water or fresh fruit. Avoid oil and fried food, and enjoy your traditional Indian grains like millets, brown rice, whole wheat roti, lentils, veggies, fruits, and plant-based dairy alternatives. So this is what a healthy A1C range looks like. It's 5.4 or less, and then pre-diabetes 5.5 to 6.4, and diabetes 6.5 or more. And what we see here is that a research study done by Dr. Barnard, where individuals with type 2 diabetes were randomized into two groups. One group followed a healthy plant-based diet. The other followed a traditional diet. And we see that the group eating the traditional diet, their A1C dropped just a little bit, 0.38. But look what happened in the plant-based group. It dropped significantly from 8.07 to 6.84. And this is without changes in medications. So what's great about this is we don't even get results like this with medications. And here we're getting them just by changing our diet. And we see similar results coming out of South Korea, where people eating a standard diet, their A1C goes from 7.4 to 7.2 12 weeks later. But those eating a low-fat plant-based diet, their A1C drops by nearly a point. So what can you do? Well, replace the high-fat foods with traditional herbs and spices. You know, we have a rich history of herbs and spices in the Indian subcontinent, but we've moved away from that and started using ghee or cream or oil to season our food. Let's get the flavor through these guys. They have no fat, no calories, and they have so many other health benefits. And instead of fried samosas, how about baked samosas? You can bake them in an air fryer or your oven. They're great. Who doesn't love Indian chaat? It's delicious, but how about we replace it with a baked version? Instead of fried pani puri, we can do crispy tortillas that are air fried. And let's, instead of puris or baturas, we can eat our traditional rotis, which had no added fat. And instead of fried food, there are always non-fried options that are much healthier for us. Last time I was in India, we were even seeing idlis made out of millets and brown rice. So many whole grain options are now available. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the use of non-dairy alternatives, because in India, we love our yogurt. We use milk in our cooking, but we don't have to use the ones that are dairy-based. We can easily use almond or soy-based products that are readily available now in India. And we'll share more with you in a few minutes. So this is just a quick table to help you for grains. Instead of white basmati rice or fried things, let's enjoy brown basmati rice and our rotis. Let's flavor our vegetables and legumes with herbs and spices instead of frying them or using added fats. And for snacks, let's find low-fat versions that are easy to do with our history. Same with dessert. We can also make healthy low-fat desserts, such as brown rice pudding with almond milk, or carrot halwa with cashew milk and raisins, or try a kulfi made with soy milk. And then for the main course, let's bring the lentils and legumes and the veggies front and center and get rid of the animal-based products, because we know those compromise our health. Thank you so much for listening. And we have a lot more interesting content to share with you.
Thank you for the amazing presentation, Dr. Rahman. It was great. And I would like to share my screen now. Let's see, full screen. And now I think we have time to invite Ms. Kajal Bhatia. And Kajal Bhatia is a nutritionist and a diabetes educator based in Mumbai. And her company, Plant Power, makes plant protein products. Kajal will talk about dairy alternatives available in India. Kajal Bhatia, welcome to the show, and the floor is ready for you when you want to share your screen.
Okay, I'm sorry, the connection is weak down here, but I'm just going to give it my best shot and it'll be 10 minutes. So I'll do my best. So I just wanted to talk about my own experience as a plant-based nutritionist in India. And I've been doing this practice for the last 15 years. And the best part about, just being off dairy, which is also challenging, no doubt, but I was able to help so many reverse the diabetes, and not only diabetes, but also a lot of lifestyle related disorders. I'll just move on to the slides so that you understand better about the various options that are there today that you can work with when you're looking at dairy alternatives. Dr. Vanita already shared about how it's possible to make so many of these alternatives with just grains, your legumes, nuts and seeds. We have everything that we use traditionally in India that can be made into a dairy alternative. For instance, you see all the dairy alternative dairy milks that can be made at home. Of course, it's better to be able to make it at home to enjoy a whole food plant-based lifestyle, but you also get it in packaged forms. You just have to be wise to be able to read the labels right so that there are not additives in terms of sugar, caking agents, etc. But what we can start with at home anyways is use soy, nuts like cashew, walnut, almond is very popular again, oats of course, because oats has the consistency to be able to use milk in many other forms, like your Indian chai, oats cashew combination is great to be heated. It's heat stable and at the same time, it's delicious. There is, of course, milk in both forms, in the form of rice, which can be cooked, or raw rice milk. There is peanut milk, which is popular, but I wouldn't suggest you to try it with any shakes. It's mainly used for our dahi or the Indian yogurt, as we popularly call it. Coconut milk, of course, is something that can be rampantly used right from your traditional payasam to a pudding to your curries, etc., etc. And in both forms, the whole coconut as well as the shredded coconut. And yes, it has saturated fat, a question that comes a lot to me, but there is also fiber along with it. So just remember, whenever something is talked about as higher in fat, especially if it's plant-based, the beauty is that it comes with the fiber. So that's a question I normally get, and I just wanted to clarify it at the onset. There is also the curd now, which can be replicated. Of course, you have to season it in a certain way so that it can feel like a curd. You make your raitas, you make your charts, etc. Even buttermilk, so there's the peanut curd, the almond curd, cashew curd. There is combinations to make it nice. The beauty of it is you can make it as per your style. You start working with one grain or nut, and as you go ahead, you will start seeing that it's so versatile to be able to use these nuts and seeds. Similarly, the non-dairy butter, um, peanut butter, almond butter, there is, of course, buttermilk in so many forms. Like I mentioned, that the peanut butter, if it is made in a certain way. I'm sorry, there is a mistake in the spellings, but basically the peanut curd can be made into peanut butter milk. You just have to season it with some cumin seeds and there you go. The Indian chaas, that's popularly called, can be easily replaced if you just are a little bit smart about the seasoning and the use of spices. Of course, there's the non-dairy cheese that can be made in many versatile ways at home with nuts and seeds. I recently had cauliflower cheese that was made by a colleague in India. She was trying it out in her own kitchen. There is the use of paneer that's rampant in the form of tofu, but there are a few brands that are out there that are also trying paneer with nuts and seeds. And of course, plant protein. I don't want to not mention it because that's something that I'm passionate about, purely because, I have a child who's growing up and there's rampant use of whey in India, the whey derivatives, like whey is something that is made from when milk turns to curd and the dust is called whey. I call it dairy dust. But interestingly, there are plant proteins in many forms: pea, soy, brown rice, moong, amaranth. I'm waiting for spirulina protein to come out, and algae protein also, which has amazing amino acid profiles. And combination of this can also help in athletic and active health. I'll move on to the nutritional values. Now, this is a common point, and I don't want to make this one too heavy, but a lot of us have traditionally in India thought of why we are having milk in the first place. And we've gone always back to that dialogue, right? For example, milk has protein, milk has calcium. That's why we have grown up on it. But let's not forget that along with the casein and a lot of the other elements with the dairy milk that we don't need for us, for our physiology, there is a lot of substitutes in plant-based milk that can easily compensate in a better form. When I say better, you can, for instance, see here that yes, a cow's milk has 8 or 9 grams protein compared to the plant proteins, which are visually and visibly less. But please remember that protein on its own as a component never works for a human body or even an animal body. You need to have protein with a lot of other holistic foods in the lifestyle to be able to make it easily absorbable and of great use for the body. So look at the calories. For instance, 259 calories of cow's milk in 1 cup compared to 29 in almond, 60 in hemp, 130 in oat, and even lesser in soy. The point is that we don't need so much calories for the ratio and the profile that we have as a physiology of the human body, and that's why the milk that we drink or we need has to be suited to our physiology, not for the cow's physiology. So that's something that I wanted to be mentioning right at the onset, because I firmly believe, and I've written books on it, that apart from the mother's milk, that is the human breast milk, nothing comes close in terms of nutritional comparison to be able to be adapted for a human body. So these are transitioning milks. They are only substitutes. One can even do away without the milk, of course, any form of nut milk. Of course, it does help that we have more nuts in our diet and all of that. But it does help when you are, trying to substitute. For example, when I substituted dairy for me myself, I actually jumped onto a smoothie. I didn't find the use of so much milk alternative, but yes, when I want a dessert, when I want a pudding, when I want to make something that tastes like an ice cream, that feels like that, I want to be able to use all these substitutes. And of course, they have fiber, they have antioxidants, they are nutritionally rich. The variety does help in a versatile a diet. So definitely all rooted for the alternatives that come along in any form of plant milk. If you even see the total fat, and I want to stress on this because we always look at protein, calcium, vitamins, minerals, but look at the fat content of cow's milk versus the rest. All of them, of course, are zero cholesterol, but even the fat content is much lesser than what you get with cow. Of course, the vitamin D that is mentioned, the international units, please remember that even, cow's milk, it is fortified with vitamin D. Vitamin D is actually made by the hormones, the synthesis of hormones in our body. So any milk will actually, whether it's plant or even animal milk, it will be fortified and packaged to be able to showcase that in various labels. So do not get fooled so easily thinking that this milk has vitamin D or not. It's basically fortification. As far as the calcium is concerned, almost all are on par. I must stress though on the calcium that is there that in cow's milk, which is of course high, but look at almond, there is enough and more calcium in almond, or even oat milk for that matter, or soy. So coming back to, all the questions that are raised on nutritional, because I'm a nutritionist and as an educator, I want to be able to fulfill nutritional requirements as well, right? But just to make you understand in a comprehensive way that it is all, it can be easily substituted. One can even have a dialogue easily on it and think about the other impact of plant-based on the body and not just go by few metrics, because eventually it is meant to be holistic. All macro and micronutrients are meant to be together, and that happens on a plant-based diet. I'll move on. This is one thing that is always stressed on. I can't give up my chai, or I can't give up tea in India, and even though so many of my clients, when they were transitioning onto these plant-based plants, as easy as we talk about them, that, oh, it's not so challenging, let's just jump into all these nuts and seeds. This is one thing that I felt that people were always challenged in India. I just have this on screen for you. You can take a screenshot. You can have your masala chai or the herbal tea, which I strongly recommend for therapeutic uses, also for the immunity factor. So all in all, I just wanted to share that as challenging as it sounds to give up dairy, and there is a history that we know about dairy that has that feels like it's helped many people gain their physical strength, their mental balance, etc. Going on a plant-based diet always supersedes all of those factors in a holistic manner. So don't, in spite of moving to dairy alternatives, don't forget the dark green leafies, the whole foods that come on the side, all of that, to have a proper plan.
Thank
So
you, Kajal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your amazing presentation. And I think you touched great on like how plant-based milks are so good in calcium, right? Most of the people who drink dairy think that cow's milk is the only source of calcium, but your slides show that plant-based milks have so much calcium. Thank you so much. And I think we should move on with the next part of our presentation. And let me start sharing my screen again.
Thank you.
And Kajal, can you please stop sharing your screen so that I can share?
Yes, thank you. I'm just doing.
Thank you so much. All right, now we would like to invite Ram Peruvemba and Aparna, and they have an amazing success story to share with you, that how Ram was able to reverse his diabetes with the help from his wife. And they have joined us in the previous programs, and we thought it would be great if they can share their story with us here in this show, so that you know the power of nutrition, the power of plant-based diet to reverse diabetes. Ram and Aparna, welcome to the show. Yes, we can see you.
Hi, Zeeshan. Thank you so much for having us on your program.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you again. And I think it will be great if audience can hear from you and how you were able to work together as a team to reverse Ram's diabetes. So could you please share with us, Ram and Aparna, how did you do that?
Zeeshan, maybe we can stop the screen share so everyone
Yes,
can see them
very
better.
good. Definitely.
Hi there. So let me start and give you a short background. Ram's mother was suffering from diabetes for over 15 years with her A1C reaching heights of about 12. She was on medication as well as insulin for about 3 times in a day. About 11 years ago, Ram was also diagnosed with prediabetes. And at that time, we were not very concerned because his numbers were below 6. However, 5 years ago, things started changing and started worsening with his A1C reaching 6.8. At this point, Ram's mother passed away in her sleep due to a cardiac arrest. And this was a wake-up call for us, and we knew that we had to take drastic steps immediately to arrest the progress of the disease. Do you want to take one?
As usual, one of the key challenges that we faced based on recommendations from doctors and well-wishers, we went on the path of trying a high-protein, low-carb diet supplemented with an exercise regimen such that we could really bring down. Initially, the results looked good. However, we noticed that over time, there was no consistency, and eating high-fat food and replacing that with low carbs quite didn't yield results. And I'm a clear example, a testament to that fact right there. So one of our friends recommended that we change and introduce us to Dr. Bernard and the program around the whole food plant-based diet. And we decided that we will give it a shot and see how that works, even for a few weeks. Let's give it a try. What we ended up finding was, to my amazement, the results were quite startling. Wow. And I do measure my diabetes with a continuous glucose monitor I have embedded in my skin. It's a subcutaneous device. And I measure the impact, and I'm a data-rich guy, so I go with data. And I love to see the impact that it was making. Thereby, we avoided all processed foods, changed to whole food, plant-based diet. Instead of white rice, we went with millets, made subtle changes, and that yielded massive results. So having been on this diet for 9 months, what I observed is my hemoglobin A1C dropped from 6.8 to 5.6.
Wow.
And this happened consistently. And that was the key thing, right? Earlier, I never had consistency. I didn't know what was the root cause. And now I have consistency because for the last 9 months, I've been tracking with that continuous glucose monitor. And I have measured 5.6 pretty consistent all across that 9 months.
That's so amazing. That's so amazing. So I think we are so happy to hear that somebody introduced you to Dr. Bernard and about the plant-based diet. So what was your diet before adopting plant-based diet? What was it like?
Absolutely.
Yeah, in one sentence, if I should say, the diet looked, we ate all what we should not be eating, right. To summarize it in one sentence. So we were having dairy-rich foods. We ate out. We were having fried foods and processed foods. So pretty much this is how our diet looked like. We also had eggs. Mm-hmm. So because Ram was exercising and we were always in the, everybody said that you need to have more protein. Right. So protein came from eggs. So we had eggs. So this is how our diet looked like before.
And Aparna, can you give us an example of what you eat now? What does breakfast or lunch or dinner look like now?
Oh, definitely. I'd be more than happy to share with you. So since we grew up in India, Indian foods are our comfort foods, even though we went to other cultural foods like once or twice or two times. I mean, like 2 days in a row. Third day, we have to get back to our Indian foods. So our Indian lunch looks, I mean, our lunch looks like a typical South Indian lunch. So we have the dal, the vegetable, the millets or the brown rice, along with yogurt. And the breakfast, we don't have anything heavy. So it is a very light breakfast for us. So I make lentil soup for Ram. We like more savory than sweet. So we go with the savory soup. I basically make a lentil soup. And our dinners are like rajma, chole with brown rice. And sometimes I also add some vegetables in the night. And our snacks are abundance of fruits.
And these are foods we completely avoided. And that was the funny part. I had to give up a lot of comfort food when I was on 2020 exercise program. And they all said, eat high protein foods. And all this came from whey protein. I used to gobble whey protein shakes and smoothies, and that quite didn't work over long run.
This is such a powerful testimony. I should say that. This is such a powerful testimony. Audience would love it because you are breaking so many myths about the diet.
Yeah, exactly. And since Ram was exercising, he went with more protein. But even in the protein, you're always stuck with this that, okay, for sugars, if you need to reduce your blood sugars, you need to go low carbs. So any food package that I saw, like even including the beans, they all had high carbs. So I was like, okay, I can't give you even more kidney beans, rajma or chole because they all have high carbs. So I was even restricting him from eating his favorite food, rajma.
I think that's a real tragedy of it, that all these traditional Indian foods that you not only enjoy, but are actually healthy for you, you were being told to avoid them.
Right.
Exactly.
Because of this education gap. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today and sharing your story. I'm sure you're inspiring a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining again. Yeah. All right, let me start sharing my screen again, and then we go to the next part of the show, and which is where we will do a quick cooking demonstration with Anushree Somani. And let me share my screen. All right, here is Anushree Somani, and she is a chef. Anushree Somani is a nutritionist, and she is doing it I think she started this journey because of her husband, and now she's making so many amazing food. And today in our show, she will show us how to make vegan Shahi Paneer without using dairy paneer, without using oil, without nuts. Thank you, Anushree, for joining us. And so please, I will stop sharing my screen and we can begin the show.
Thanks, Zeeshan. Thanks so much. And hello, everyone. So after all that wonderful wisdom and that amazing diabetes reversal story, it's time to have some practical fun in the kitchen. So today we are going to be making a vegan version of the universal favorite Shahi Paneer or Shahi Tofu. And not only are we going to be making this free of dairy, as Zeeshan said, but it's also completely free of any nuts, seeds, and oil. So I'm sure you guys are all wondering, how is it even going to be flavorful and how is it going to appeal to everyone in the family? But remember, all the flavor comes from all your spices, aromatics, and herbs, and we're going to be using a lot of that. And I always tell people, don't tell anyone in the family, but when you start feeling so good and the food tastes amazing, it's going to get everyone on board on this journey. So for the paneer alternative today, we are going to be using tofu. And this tofu, as Kajal beautifully explained, is now pretty widely available. And also there are companies that are making dairy-free paneer. So you pretty much can get this in general stores, and also you can make tofu easily at home. There are tons of videos online, and if you guys like, I can also leave a link of how to make tofu at home, and also how to make tofu with chickpea flour. So what is important when you're using tofu as a paneer alternative is to make sure you find the firmest variety of tofu that you can find. And also to make sure that because tofu has a little more moisture than paneer, what I like to do is to add a heavy weighted jar on the tofu and place the tofu in like a sieve or a colander and just set it aside for maybe like half an hour, and it'll just drain off all the excess moisture. Now with tofu, as you all know, it's extremely high in protein. It's also very rich in calcium, and you get all the plant-powered, health-promoting nutrients. And unlike dairy, it's not health depleting. It does not have that extra fat and cholesterol. So it's a really great alternative. And also, it works so similar to paneer in texture that with some playing around and with some techniques, it's very easy to get that similar paneer-like pillowy, chewy feel. So what I've done, because we are short on time, the whole recipe will be available on the resource portal, and Zeeshan will be sharing the link with you all. But I've done some prep work wherein I've diced the tofu. I also marinated it with a little bit of salt and lemon juice just to get that added paneer-like tangy flavor, because paneer is nothing but curdled milk, right? So, and then what I've done is I've roasted it to make it a little more pillowy, but you can also leave it as it is if you like that soft melting in your mouth texture. So I've roasted it on a non-stick pan, and it's really easy to get this color and get roasted without it sticking and without any oil. So just let it. You can even cook it on a ceramic or a cast iron pan. Sometimes if you feel like it is going to stick, you can also grease the pan lightly with oil, but don't add oil to the pan. Now we are going to get started with the onion tomato gravy. And as I said, this gravy is going to be made without any oil. So to start off with, I'm going to just dry roast some whole spices. So I've got all your basic whole spices like cinnamon, bay leaves, cardamom, cloves, peppercorns. Sometimes I also like to add chana dalia to this if you want it a little more thick and creamy. So instead of like the cashews, we can use chana dalia as an alternative to help make the sauce rich and creamy. And then it's a complete myth that you need oil in the pan for extracting the essence and the flavor from your spices. It's actually even more pronounced if there is no oil, because oil just dilutes all the flavors. And then it's the heat that truly unlocks the flavor. So just give it a try. And like I said, just don't tell anyone that it's oil-free. So yeah, then once it gets a little aromatic and you can feel that the spices are slightly roasted, you move on to the next step, which is of adding onions. I'm also adding the garlic and the ginger. Now remember, cooking is not an exact science. It's just have fun, get creative, and play around and see what works for you. And with a little practice, it's going to become second nature to do oil-free cooking. Also, with oil-free cooking, I like to keep water handy, just because if at all at any point you feel like things are drying up or anything seems like it's close to burning, you just always add a splash of water to make sure you prevent any kind of burning happening. And then just let it on medium heat. Sorry, I'm just checking. On medium heat, just saute all your aromatics. And once the onions soften, we're going to move on to adding the tomatoes and the cauliflower. What I've done, because we were going to be moving pretty quickly, I have pre-prepared the gravy, but I'm just going to show you how to make sure that you can also make this creamy. And what I also sometimes do is I add cauliflower or potatoes, because the starches in these vegetables really helps make things rich and creamy. You can also add poha flakes or rice flour if you like, and then just let it all simmer with some water till the cauliflower softens. And once that happens, just let it cool and blend it. The important step that I like to do with my gravies is to make sure that you strain it, and that really helps give it that smooth, silky finish. Now, this gravy is really versatile and you can use it for a lot of your tomato-based vegetables. So yeah, definitely just play around and have fun when you're making this. And I'm going to set this aside and move on to assembling the dish. So for the final product, I'm just going to dry roast some cumin seeds. So I'm just going to dry roast some cumin seeds. You can use black and brown cumin seeds, or you can just use brown cumin seeds, whatever you like. And with cumin seeds, they do tend to burn a little fast. So just as soon as they turn a shade darker, move on to the next step. I do want to mention here that I actually made this dish for my North Indian mother-in-law, who was really skeptical about trying food oil-free. And she absolutely could not firstly tell that there was no oil. And then the next day I saw her making food oil-free. And if it can impress a North Indian mother-in-law, I really think you guys should give it a try and your families will be amazed. So next I'm just going to add the puree. And see, as I mentioned, because of the straining, it's become really nice and silky. And this just has cauliflower in it. It does not have any nuts or seeds that help make it creamy. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. So I've also added the spices like red chili powder, coriander powder, and turmeric powder. But at this stage, you'd be adding it and just letting it simmer for some time. Now, with tofu, because tofu is pretty bland in taste, you also let it cook in the sauce for a little longer, just so that it takes on the flavor of the sauce beautifully, and then you can't tell that it's tofu. And then I'm adding the saffron, which gives it that rich, shahi feel. I've added some garam masala. I'm going to add some kasuri methi. So as you can see, it's all the beautiful Indian spices that we have that are really giving it all the flavor, and it's making it so aromatic. I wish you guys could even smell it. But I'm sure once you give it a try, you will definitely enjoy it so much. And yeah, finally, the most important ingredient to help make it creamy, what I have made is the bean cream. So this is nothing but any white beans that is blended with the water that the beans have been cooked in. That water really has properties to make it thick and creamy, and it's being used widely for a wide variety of desserts, for whipped cream and things like that. So you can even use your chickpeas and just boil it and use the chickpea water, which is called aquafaba, and it turns out really nice and creamy. So now we'll just add the tofu to assemble the dish. So also with the bean cream, you want to remember that the beans are nicely cooked. And what I like to do is blend it with equal amount of water. And then through the opening on the blender, just add a little more of the water and see when it reaches this creamy consistency. And then you just top it with the bean cream. I'm not a very big fan of heating nuts and seeds, and that's why wherever possible, I like to use legumes and vegetables to help get the same creamy texture. So I hope you guys can see this, and you serve it in a nice container. And I hope you guys give this a try and enjoy it with your families. And always remember that when you focus on what you gain versus what you give up, and when you feel so good, your health is just going to be fantastic and you're going to transform your life in a beautiful manner. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
That was so amazing, Anushree. Thank you so much. Super. Looks super delicious. I can't wait to try. All right. Thank you so much, Anushree. Let's move on with the next part of our program. Dr. Rahman, are you ready for the panel discussion?
Yes, let's do it. I want to say that looked amazing, and I am going to try that today. I am so hungry. Thank you, Anushree.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited for everyone to try.
And I love the way you used beans and cauliflower to make a creamy gravy, because often nuts are used, which are also high in fat. So thank you for that low fat option. Look delicious.
That's great. So now we can invite all our panelists to please unmute and share your and turn on your video so that we can take a few, we can talk a little bit about dairy alternatives, because that's something, if we can help our audience in India to find dairy alternatives where they can buy all those things, will be amazing. So Dr. Rahman, if you think, I can start with the first question.
Yeah, let's do it.
Is about how people in India can buy these dairy alternatives, plant-based milk. Are they available online or in stores? Please let us know, and we can start with Kajal, because you are based in Mumbai. Please tell us in very quick, because we have very less time. We would like to end on time. So if you can tell us real quickly, where can we buy plant-based milk in India?
So in Mumbai, and especially the tier 1 cities in India, everything is so densely populated. Today, there is every home in a block that is making some kind of alternate milk, and there are a lot of home chefs. But in the organized market, there are convenience stores, there are supermarkets, there are even vegan standalone stores that are largely available in all the metro cities that I've visited. There are vegan groups where you can learn from each other. And there are a lot of flea markets. I just recently attended a vegan flea market in Bombay, where all vegan brands were there, and everything from alternate dairy milk to butter, cheese, etc. was available. So I'm happy to
So
drop
Kajal, you
all
are
the
based in
resource
Mumbai.
sites.
You are
Yes,
based in Mumbai.
yes.
Do you think this is common for everywhere in India? People can buy even in small
Why
cities?
don't we ask Ram and Aparna, where
Right.
have you had any trouble finding vegan products, vegan alternatives?
Unfortunately, we live in Redmond,
Yeah.
Washington, so it was easy for us to find it here, right in local grocery stores.
But I spoke to my brother who lives in India, and he told me that soy milk is available to him. You know how in India every morning they come and drop the milk packets in your door. Similarly, soy milk is also available in that same service. So please go ahead and ask your milk provider if they can also provide you with soy milk.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that online there are many vegan sites. There is Vegano, there is Vegan Ho, and of course Amazon also stocks a lot of products. But of course you have to read the labeling and decide whether it's the right minimally processed one for you.
All right.
Also,
Anushree,
sorry,
Yeah,
I just wanted to add that if more people demand and even like talk to their grocery stores, it's sometimes really easy for them to get it, because at least in the US, I've noticed that when you go and ask for a particular product, they make sure they get it for you just because you tell them that your competitors are carrying, and again, demand will equal to a higher supply. So.
all right. So I think, and somebody is just writing that good milk is a great option in India.
Yes, good
And
milk
we,
is, yes.
right? We invited the host, the CEO of Good Milk in the previous series, Fight Diabetes with Food, and they are having all amazing dairy alternatives in India. So moving on to Dr. Rahman, do you have a next question for the audience?
I'm actually wondering, dairy products play such a key role in the Indian diet, and sometimes that's very hard for people. What have you found? Let me ask you, Anushree and Ram and Aparna, what did you find as a good substitute for yogurt? Because that comes up a lot and people are looking for good yogurt alternatives. What are some plant-based ones that worked for you? Let's start with you, Ram and Aparna.
That's her department.
Okay, so long before I've heard one of my friends say that she has become a vegan and she makes vegan yogurt for her family. So when we started doing this, it just struck me that, okay, I have to go and ask her. So I wrote to her and she gave me the recipe as to how she made her yogurt. It was with soy milk. So she told me which brand she bought and where she bought. So I was there next minute in that store, bought that milk, came home, and with the regular yogurt, initially with the regular yogurt, 1 teaspoon of the regular yogurt, I converted that soy milk into soy yogurt. And our Indian food does the yogurt plays a main part in our Indian food. So we just could not live without it. So I had to find an alternative. And soy milk turns into soy yogurt, and it tastes very, very similar to the cow's milk yogurt.
So what I'm hearing is you were able to continue eating all those foods that you enjoyed before while seeing improvements in your diabetes, which
exactly.
is
Yeah.
Right.
So we just could not give up all the foods that we grew up with, all the comfort foods we grew up with. So we had to find alternatives.
Yeah.
How about you? Go
How about you, Anushree? What are some of your favorite vegan yogurts?
Yeah, so for me, I really like to make my yogurts at home. I mean, fortunately in the US, it is widely available. But what I like to do is make yogurts with a probiotic capsule and just coconut milk or almond milk, make the milk at home, and then add the probiotic capsule powder and just let it ferment. And it turns out like fantastic, like yogurt, and even cheese can be easily made like with the probiotics. So I do like to make it at home. And yeah, you don't absolutely have to miss out on all of these favorite comfort foods.
And all these now milks, what you are mentioning, can be used in Indian cuisine, and like plant-based milk can be used in our tea. And I'm hearing from all of you that the taste is not compromised at all.
Absolutely. And also your taste buds change, and then it soon becomes second nature, and you actually feel so good that that's what motivates you to be on this path.
Excellent. I think just in lieu of time, I think we have to stop this panel discussion here. But I'm so thankful that you join us and you enlighten our audience with your wonderful thoughts and your knowledge about plant-based foods and nutrition. Thank you so much for joining. We have few more slides just to share with the audience, like take-home messages. But thank you again for joining.
Thank you so much.
All right, Dr. Rahman, I would like to share my screen again with just information about our second class. So our second class would be next Monday, same time, and the class topic would be easy and delicious meal planning. So in this class, we will have Sapna Wonraik, who will talk about some advice for when you are going for grocery shopping. We have Neha Ranglani, who is based in Mumbai, and she will talk about some great Indian foods, Indian recipes that are 100% plant-based that you can utilize. And please save the date. This is for game changer screening. I know this is from the Indian Standard Time. It would be very early in the morning, but if you can, please watch. But don't worry if you cannot watch. We will have a special screening for our people in India soon about this movie. It's an amazing movie, The Game Changers. And last but not the least, we are very thankful to all these organizational partners who are helping us promote this program. And here are some of the names mentioned in this slide. And as my colleagues already told you, that the class recordings and resources can be found at pcrm.org/OHW, that means One Healthy World India Resources. Please check these resources. The class recordings, recipes, everything will be available on demand for free. Dr. Rahman, you have to add anything? You are muted.
Thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited to try that tofu curry, and I hope you will too, and share with us how it went for you. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Next week,
yes. Bye for now, everybody. Thanks for